If you've ever looked at a custom-built computer and thought, wow, that is some kind of dark magic, well, welcome to this explainer. I've got some really great news for you. Building a PC? It's essentially just Lego for adults. Seriously, we're going to guide you safely through this entire journey, and before you know it, we'll transform that pile of individual components into your absolute ultimate machine, and we're going to do it without breaking a sweat. You know, there's a pretty funny saying in the community. There are two different kinds of PC builders: those who actively avoid cable management and those who embrace it. I think that perfectly captures the beginner anxiety we all face, right? The dread of messy cables, the fear of complex software. But hey, don't worry. We're going to turn all that chaos completely into order. We're breaking down the absolute best tips, component installation tricks, and those essential BIOS settings straight from the experts so you can get up and running smoothly. Okay, so here's our roadmap for today. First up, the build fundamentals. Then we'll dive into core component installation. After that, mastering cable management, navigating the BIOS, and finally, we'll wrap up with final system optimization. See? It might seem overwhelming at first, but this whole task actually has a very logical, finite structure. All right, let's jump straight into section 1, the build fundamentals, reading the map. Listen, preparation is the ultimate key to a successful build. Skipping this step, that's exactly where most beginners go wrong. Before you even think about grabbing a screwdriver, you need a plan. For instance, always read your manuals, especially for your case and cooler, because they almost always have their own weird, unique quirks. Also, take a good look at your bare PC case. Note those anchor points and the channeling on the backside. Planning your cable routes early is going to save you massive headaches later on. And remember, every single cable connection should be totally snug. Just match clip to clip. Oh, and finally, do not stress about your budget. Entry-level hardware today is incredibly capable. You're in good hands. Moving right along to section 2, core component installation, the road of trials. Okay, so this is the physical assembly phase. Getting it right the first time here is absolutely crucial. Now, your motherboard is basically your system's central nervous system. First things first, if your board doesn't have an integrated one, pop that I/O shield right onto the back of the case. Next, take your motherboard and gently, very gently, lower it into the case at a 45-degree angle. Third, you're going to match the mounting holes on the board with the standoffs in the case. And finally, secure the board. Do not, under any circumstances, leave out any of the supplied screws. A rock-solid mount is critical here to avoid unsteady movement that could literally damage your expensive new hardware. So, according to the official MSI guide, the real pro trick is to tilt the board at that 45-degree angle. Why? Because this makes sliding those rear ports perfectly into the I/O shield incredibly smooth and effortless. It completely avoids any nasty scraping against the bottom of the case. It takes what sounds like an abstract physical step and makes it crystal clear. Now, when it comes to your storage, secure connections are literally everything. When you're installing SATA drives, like older SSDs or those chunky mechanical hard drives, you connect one end of the SATA cable to the motherboard and the other to the device itself. But the caution here is paramount. Make sure you mount that hard drive tight. You do not want it vibrating. A loose drive just rattling around in your case, that is a total recipe for a shortened lifespan. Lock it down. All right, section 3, mastering cable management, taming the snakes. For a lot of folks, this is the most dreaded phase of the entire build. But handled correctly, it can actually be kind of therapeutic. Just remember this highly dramatic but totally true warning: put them down right now. Zip ties are the devil. It's a hilarious rule, but it immediately stops beginners from making the most common and, honestly, the most damaging cable routing mistake right out of the gate. Let me tell you exactly why zip ties are your worst enemy here. When you pull them tight, they physically pinch your cables. This damages the outer sheathing, which leads to poor connectivity, and honestly, trying to cut them off later is incredibly risky. One slip of the scissors and snip, there goes a wire. Velcro, on the other hand, is infinitely useful. It safely holds bunched cables together, and that is absolutely vital when you're trying to wrangle those messy, confusing bunches of RGB and PWM fan headers without risking damage to your wiring. And here is a classic builder's tell. If you're struggling to get the back panel onto your PC, to the point where you literally have to lay it on its side to let gravity help force it closed, yeah, you need to improve your cable management. Proper routing, actually utilizing those case anchor points with Velcro, ensures a totally clean, effortless finish. No unnecessary pressure on your delicate side panels. Okay, section 4, navigating the BIOS, crossing the threshold. First of all, congratulations, the physical build is done. We are entering the digital realm now, but please do not panic. The BIOS menu is essentially just a checklist, not a trap. So let's demystify our first major BIOS acronym, UEFI. When looking at your boot mode, you're going to see options like UEFI and Legacy. You want UEFI. It is the modern standard, it's faster, it's significantly more secure, and it is strictly required for features like secure boot and installing Windows 11. Legacy mode is outdated, and you should completely avoid it. Now, this modern standard ties directly into another absolutely vital security feature, TPM, or Trusted Platform Module. Basically, this stores encryption keys. It might be labeled as FTPM or PTT depending on your specific system. Most modern CPUs have this built right in, but you absolutely must ensure it is enabled in the BIOS. Otherwise, Windows 11 simply will not install. Knowing this right out of the gate is going to clear up so much confusion. And finally, Section 5, Final System Optimization, the ultimate boon. This is where the magic happens. This is where we unlock the true speed and silence of the hardware you just so carefully assembled. Did you know that by default, your RAM actually runs way slower than advertised? It's true, just for compatibility reasons. Enter XMP, or EXPO if you're on an AMD system. This stands for Extreme Memory Profile. Enabling this one setting in the BIOS is quite literally the easiest way to get free performance. It's exactly like unlocking a speed limiter on your system's memory, giving you faster frame rates in games and way snappier multitasking. To put the performance you're leaving on the table into perspective, let's say you buy RAM rated for 3200 megahertz. Well, without XMP enabled, it could just be chugging along at a sluggish 2133 megahertz. That is a massive jump in speed that you are just entirely missing out on. And all it takes is simply selecting Profile 1 in the BIOS to get exactly what you paid for. Next up, let's cut through those super intimidating CPU menus. I have a strict rule for beginners: leave mostly everything on auto. Make sure features like Precision Boost or Turbo Boost are enabled so your CPU performs at its maximum potential when needed. But absolutely avoid manual voltage settings and do not manually overclock. Modern processors are incredibly smart. They'll automatically boost themselves depending on the workload. Touching the voltage incorrectly, that can easily cause system instability or even permanent hardware damage. Leave it alone. All right, lastly, setting a fan curve. This is such an underrated step, but it completely changes how your PC feels in your room. You are essentially graphing your computer's temperatures to its fan speed. Low temps, the fan spins slowly and quietly. Temperatures rise, the fans ramp up to cool things down. Setting this up prevents your brand new PC from constantly sounding like a taking off jet engine. It lets you perfectly balance silent operation with high performance cooling. And just like that, you've done it. Now that your ultimate machine is built, perfectly cable managed, optimized in the BIOS, and purring quietly right next to your desk, what incredible thing are you going to create with it first? Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer. Keep learning, keep building, and go enjoy your incredible new PC.